I'm now going to hand over to Robert Mulder, who's UK Director and User Feedback Specialist at Usabilla. Thank you.
Okay, so as I was preparing this speech of the weekend, I read on the internet where everything's true that you should start with a quote or a fact. So here's mine. And it's not a passive-aggressive way to get you to listen to me. It's actually taps into what I want to talk about, which is basically get you to start thinking about how you listen to your users. Because I think people understand the value of listening. In any relationship, it's valuable to be a good listener. But I think it's something that companies neglect quite often, and something that a lot of companies can do a lot better. So my name is Robert. I work for a company called Usabilla, and we like to think that, well, we're trying to be the experts in helping companies listen to their users. So you may recognize, if you haven't heard of us before, you may recognize our feedback buttons on lots of sites around the world. Chances are it could be us, so Skyscanner, CNN, Nike, a lot of these companies are using our feedback button that enables their users to let them know how terrible their website is or what they need to do to improve. But we actually do a lot more than that. So our vision is ultimately to enable users to communicate via every digital channel. So to let companies understand what users think of their website via our website solution, through apps, so a native app solution, and also email, so to understand what users think of the content of the emails you're sending out. So why feedback? And I know that we're all here today because we want to see how we can ensure growth in the coming year, and I basically want to highlight how our customers are seeing value in feedback, how they're finding short-term and long-term growth by simply enabling these channels and listening to their users. And in order to do that, I basically want to walk through a few examples of how our customers are using feedback in interesting ways. So if it is something you're doing, maybe you'll get some ideas of what you can do. And if you're not, hopefully you'll get an idea of the value you can get from listening to your customers. So I think that everyone here probably uses analytics to some degree, tracking how users move around the website, that kind of thing. You can identify drop-off rates. What I want to demonstrate today is that analytics can only get you so far. It enables you to see what's happening, but you need user feedback to understand why it's happening. And hopefully you'll see in these stories why that why is so important. So the first case study I want to talk about is Philips. They've been a customer for about a year with us, and their main objective was to improve user experience. And so what they've done is implemented our feedback button. They also have exit surveys. So on pages where there were high drop-off rates, they now have exit surveys asking, why are you leaving? What were you looking for? But with the feedback button alone, which is, as I mentioned, the place where people can select elements on the site that are causing problems. So if they're confused by something, if there's a bug, they've uncovered a lot of bugs and realized very quickly that they're saving themselves a lot of time. Effectively, they're crowdsourcing their entire customer base to locate bugs for them and bring them to their attention. So they're saving a lot of time and resources internally. They're also, so as you can see here, they uncovered 174 issues. Issues in this case were bugs that were impacting user journeys, so directly impacting conversion rates. 174 in a month alone were brought to their attention, and they had all the data, thanks to our feedback, to fix it and kind of resolve the issue. And using these kind of campaigns as well, so the slide out exit surveys, you're able to increase, our customers increase conversion on pages just simply by listening to their customers, close to 120% in some cases. So this was another interesting customer. I couldn't share their name, unfortunately, but it's a big retailer based in the UK, but with offices all over websites all over the world. And they came to us for a similar reason. There was the UX team leading this. They wanted to identify what were the priorities on the site, so what were users encountering that were problems, and where they should prioritize their efforts in redesigning it. Effectively, we proved that very quickly, so they got a lot of feedback. They understood what they should focus on, so they removed the risk from their UX strategy. At the same time, they uncovered a serious bug during this trial. So this was during the 2-week trial. They uncovered a serious bug whereby everyone on the Australian site who was trying to buy something couldn't, because they couldn't add the item to the basket. So they went over to the e-commerce team and said, hey, do you guys know about this? And the e-commerce team hadn't picked it up yet. So this was an early warning indicator. And furthermore, they knew exactly where the problem was, because they'd encountered similar problems before. And the normal process was to go straight to the checkout, start looking for where the problem was. Because we have visual feedback that indicates exactly where the issue is, they immediately knew it was an issue with the stock options, could jump in and fix it, effectively saving tens of thousands of pounds of potential downtime where their store was basically closed. A similar story as well, a major airline in Ireland. They wanted to improve their booking process. So I'm sure everyone here who has a checkout process, you know there's very high drop-off rates there, because people have to go get their credit card and stuff like that. They had a section where you had to put in your passport details, and they knew there was a big drop-off rate there. They had the data to prove it, and they had just assumed for years that the reason there was a drop-off at the passport bit was because people had to go get their passport or didn't have their passport with them, so then they'd abandon the process. Once we implemented the feedback system, it immediately became obvious that there was actually a bug impacting 10% of people on that stage. And people were complaining like, hey, I put my passport details in and it's frozen, so I've had to restart the process. So they uncovered a bug, effectively overnight reducing drop-off rates on that form, the booking process, in one go. The value here is that you don't know what you're missing until you start talking to your users and seeing what they have to say, seeing the problems they encounter. So I'm assuming, again, as well as analytics, that a lot of people in the room will do A/B testing. If you're not, you really should be doing A/B testing because it's incredibly valuable. We're working with a big company that is a very big company that are leaders in research A/B testing, so they've won a lot of awards for it. And they actually came to us because they were frustrated that it was so data-driven. So their UX team would invest in a fantastic new design. They'd implement it, conversion rates would stay the same, so they wouldn't know what the value was. By getting user feedback, you're able to see what people feel about the change, whether they like it, you can see what they're saying about it. You can actually target surveys and say, hey, do you like this new redesign? And involve them in that redesign process. So now they're increasing NPS, so increasing customer loyalty, user satisfaction by including their users in this testing, basically. And once you have happy customers, a lot of our clients will actually then turn them into promoters, so offer them an opportunity to then actually act on their words. So if you say you're going to tell your friends and family, well then, yeah, why don't you tweet about how much you enjoy our site? So as you may remember from the first slide, we also have email solutions, so enabling companies to see what their customers think of email. And Adidas came to us for pretty much the same reason. They had entire teams dedicated to producing content, and all they had was click-through rates, open rates, unsubscribe rates to base their entire campaigns on. So now they've implemented this widget here at the bottom, like what you see across all their campaigns, and they're able to see what people like, what they don't like, iterate, improve. And in the 6 months we've been working with them, they're already increasing click-through rates. They're getting a lot more feedback now that people know that they can actually give feedback on the content they're receiving and change the content potentially. And people are being a lot more positive, reducing unsubscribes. Last but not least, for those of you who are using apps, we have an in-app solution as well. And one of our biggest customers is Human App, so it's an activity tracking app that doesn't need peripherals. And they wanted to increase app downloads. So basically they wanted to see what people wanted to improve the app. And one thing that was very incredible very quickly was the impact it had on their App Store rating. And this is, if you have an app and you do not have a way of getting feedback in the app, I highly recommend you go back and put some avenue, Because if the App Store review system is the easiest way for someone to leave you feedback, it's going to be very detrimental to your App Store rating. And we've seen it with every customer using Usabilla for apps, that your App Store rating will increase as soon as you introduce a channel where they can leave feedback. Otherwise, any bug they encounter, any issue, they're going to do it in the App Store, and you're going to suffer. Your App Store rating is going to go down. So if you can put any way of receiving feedback in your app, I highly recommend it. It's going to have a very quick, positive impact. And actually, all of our customers, by opening these channels, whether it's in-app or on the website, in general, it reduces the amount of negative social messaging around your brand. Because you're creating an avenue where they can vent and tell you what the problems are, rather than going to Twitter and saying publicly what they think about your company. And that's it. I know I covered quite a lot of stuff, but I hope there's something valuable in there for everyone. I would highly recommend, I'd like to invite everyone here to do a trial with us. We offer a free trial, and we see fantastic results in those 2 weeks of the trial, as we've seen. So if anyone wants to just run it and start seeing what your customers think, yeah, get in touch with us or come talk to us after the event. That's it. Thanks.